In the 2 to 5 player Grimm Masquerade, the Beast has invited all the fairy tale characters from the Grimm Forest to his castle for a masquerade party. However, he has a game of deduction and cunning set up for them. The question is the clock going to strike midnight on the Grimm Forest time on my shelves? I'm Nate, and welcome to my Dice Dungeon, where each and every single video we are going to take a look at these games and determine whether they stay or they have to go. In the Grimm Masquerade, you are looking to win a round by collecting the boons that you want to get and avoid getting the banes that you do not want. So everybody in the Grimm Forest at the start of a round is going to get a character card that they represent. And for instance, Rumpelstiltskin here wants 3 of the spindles. He wants to avoid getting 2 of the crowns. So each character is going to try to get 3 of their boons and avoid getting 2 of their banes. Now, the turn mechanism is a little bit unique in Grimm Masquerade. So what will happen on a turn is a player will get 2 cards. They will take the first one, and they will determine whether or not they want to keep that or give that away. So, for instance, Rumpelstiltskin, he has the first of one of his boons. So he's going to say, man, that's really good fortune. I'm going to keep that. And now, because he kept that, he has to give the other card away as a gift. And that's a clock. So it's kind of useless for him. But he's going to give the clock away to another player. Play is going to continue until a player gets 2 of one kind of item. So Rumpelstiltskin got 2 spindles here. At that time, the player has to identify whether they are the player that is looking to avoid that item. So, for instance, Sleeping Beauty is trying to avoid getting the spindles. So, the player that's playing Rumpelstiltskin will say, no, I am not Sleeping Beauty, and place their marker on the character portrait. That way, the players know now that that player can only be one of the remaining 7 characters. Play will continue until all players have been unmasked except for one, or one player will have 3 of a kind of their boons that they're looking for, at which time they will reveal themselves and collect the round-winning marker. The first round is worth 1 point, the second round is worth 3 points, and the third round is worth 5. There are a couple of additional things here. You can trade in 2 of any of these artifacts for an action. Now, one action will remain the same from round to round. You always have the ability to point the finger at another player, which I will explain in a minute. And these 2 are rotating. So you will have 2 random actions in a round, which you can execute by trading in 2 of these. So Eavesdrop, for instance, you can choose 1 or 2 players. Each player chosen must place an evidence marker. So instead of forcing them to take cards and try to figure out who they are, they immediately have to place evidence markers on one of the characters that they're not. There is the point the finger, which always is in effect. So you can trade in 2 artifacts to point the finger, and you can guess the identity of one other player. So if you're correct, you get 1 rose, which is a victory point, and that player is unmasked. If you are wrong, that player that you accused gets the victory point instead. So play continues on for 3 rounds, and the person with the most victory points is the winner. Now, players do get eliminated in the game, but there are mechanics to help keep them engaged. So when they get taken out, they take every card that's in their tableau and pick it up, and they'll be able to draw 1 card at the beginning of their turn and give 1 card away. They kind of become a kingmaker in that sense. They also, as soon as they're eliminated, get to select a wager card of who they think the character is that is going to win. So if somebody chooses Rumpelstiltskin and Rumpelstiltskin winds up winning by unmasking everybody or collecting 3 of his boons, that player will get victory points in accordance to what round it is. So they will get equivalent victory points to the winner. So they have an incentive to kind of stay in and stay engaged with the game. You can also play an optional rule, which you get the person in last place gets a special ability based on the character that they were during the previous round. And for instance, Rumpelstiltskin's is Fiendish Accusation. If you guess incorrectly, when you point the finger, you may draw 1 artifact and keep it or give it away. So there are little special abilities that help kind of bring people up from behind. So when we first took a look at the publisher of the Grimm Masquerade, we saw that it was the same publisher as the Grimm Forest. So naturally our conclusion was that it was an expansion of the Grimm Forest property. However, it is very clearly not. It is a completely new standalone experience. And so we took a little cursory look at it, about 2 minutes, and we weren't terribly impressed with it. However, a table opened up and we got to sit down and play around, and that was enough to convince us to pick up a copy. This game is very, very thematic in the boons that each character is looking for. For example, Cinderella is looking for her glass slippers, the Beast is looking for the mirror, the Evil Queen is looking for the crown. There are a couple of complaints I do have about the game. The tokens, for instance, it's very hard to see, but they can be a little bit difficult to discern between blue and purple, and this yellow and I believe it's orange. Again, kind of colorblind. Can be difficult for colorblind players to discern between, but they're not as bad as some of the other components that I've seen in the past. I really, really like the addition of these wager cards, which help players that are out feel like they still have agency in the game even though they've been eliminated. And these special abilities, which are completely optional, can also provide a nice catch-up mechanic for players. There's also these treasure tiles that can be traded in as one of the boons or part of a set for an artifact, just to be able to activate a special ability. Each player gets one at the start of a round, and they can be traded in for victory points. So we didn't get to play with those treasure tiles, but we didn't really necessarily need them to have a good time. I will say that the points escalate very, very quickly. It's much greater to win in the last round than it is in the first. You only get 1 point in the first round as opposed to 5 in the last. So that does feel a little bit lopsided in how that goes. We still had a great time with it, but we may wind up making each round 3 points each and see how a play with that goes. Either way, I'm sure that things were put that way for a reason, and we still did have a great time with this game. The components are very well done. Everything is very nice. I did miss the game trays insert for this game. That's something that Druid City and Skybound have done in the past that really tends to set their games apart, and it was noticeable. It's a very standard insert. Doesn't necessarily need it, but would have been nice. It does keep the cost of the game down. The MSRP is $25. So really, for the amount of gameplay that you're going to get out of this for that $25, really not that bad. And that game tray, not having a game tray in there can really help bring that MSRP down. So I understand the decision. Either way, we did buy this at Origin, so this is staying on my shelves, obviously. it's definitely worth having. Great for families, 8 plus. You can have the smaller kids get engaged with this game and take some of the additional features out just to kind of get them up to speed a little bit. So definitely staying on the shelves for a long time to come. I really had a great time with it. Great deduction and logic use in this game. So once again, thanks to Druid City and Skybound for bringing this to Origins and having an early release. I do believe that the street date for this is supposed to be sometime in July of 2019. That's when pre-orders are shipping out. So I was very fortunate to get this early copy of it. Other than that, if you like this video and like what I do, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you later on Cardboard Time.